Before I begin, you've probably heard that General Motors is recalling all Chevrolet Bolts due to the LG Chem battery pack. I shot this video long before that announcement. I'm still running it because it gives a good idea of the mid-cycle refresh. I've updated it with as much relevance as possible. Electric vehicles are on everyone's minds these days, with lots of chatter about torquey performance, less maintenance, and automakers eliminating gas engines. There's the whole climate change issue too. Considering that Chevrolet's Bolt EV has been around since 2016 and General Motors has used up its allotment of federal tax credits, you'd think a solid percentage of Americans are plugging in to drive. That would be a big not so much. In total, EVs make up just around 2% of the total vehicle sales. Chances are a mid-cycle refresh of the Bolt isn't going to jack those numbers up significantly, but Chevy engineers heard from owners, and more importantly, those that passed on it for various reasons, and righted what was wrong. The 2022 model should be more appealing to more people, starting with lopping $5,500 from the price. If you haven't heard, there's a second Bolt now, the EUV. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit more expensive, but has a little less range. It's built on the same front-wheel drive only architecture as the Bolt EV here, but gets a sleeker look. Seems like the Chevy designers cribbed their own work. There are a lot of blazer lines happening here. I'll get one of those as soon as I can for testing, but right now, let's focus on this one. For starters, the front end looks less busy if you hadn't noticed. The rear gets spendy-looking taillights. This pillar that gives the EV a hatchback vibe, even though Chevy oddly markets this as an SUV, remains the same. Most significant is this. The sparkly white plastic instrument panel has been 86'd. It now feels more normal and upmarket. Both the EV and EUV share this setup. Seats were also a gripe, but these aren't just new, improved, and powered for the driver. There's effectively a little bit more travel. Seriously, my petite wife couldn't quite comfortably reach the pedals on the outgoing model. There's nothing new with the powertrain, and there's still no storage in the nose. This Chevy bolts with a 200 horsepower permanent magnet electric motor turning the front wheels. All-wheel drive is not a thing with any Bolt. Let's not forget about torque. There's 266 pound-feet of it. Part of the interior redesign is push-button controls. A reminder, like most EVs, there's no transmission. There's a setting for more significant regeneration drag if you don't like using the brake pedal, and the steering wheel paddle adds even more, a sport mode too. The new gauge cluster screen offers up clues on how to drive more efficiently. How long does it take to charge? Well, on standard 120 household current, the rate is about 4 miles per hour. A full charge on 240 level 2 takes 7 hours. DC commercial fast charging like this can add up to 100 miles in a half hour. As always, it depends on temperature and how spent the pack is. The infrastructure is expanding, there's no doubt about that, but public charging can be expensive and inconvenient. Personally, I feel that home charging is critical for the best EV experience. Fortunately, General Motors is throwing in free basic level 2 charging installation if you buy or lease a Bolt. Tesla's supercharger network is an advantage when traveling. Mr. Musk claims it will soon be open to all users. He also said there would be 1 million robo-taxis by now, so we'll see. The floor-mounted lithium-ion battery pack remains 65 kilowatt-hours in size and was EPA rated to offer 259 miles of range, but to protect the pack, a software setting restricts charging to 90%, so that's 233 miles now. Until the packs are replaced, GM recommends charging away from any structures at night and not dropping below 70 miles if possible. Bolt does the 0 to 60 dash in about 6.5 seconds, which isn't exactly plaid territory, but you gotta remember, EVs have instant torque right off the line, so this feels a lot faster than it is. And on the highway, there's enough power to pass. Acceleration is not an issue with the Bolt. Freeway cruising at 80 miles an hour is no problem for the little Chevy. It's a solid commuter. You of course want to know about range. My first charge with the Bolt, I saw around 260 miles, so that is truth in advertising. That's with a mixture of highway and city driving, plus temperatures in the high 70s, pretty much ideal for an EV. If you haven't heard, unlike gas-powered cars, EVs are less efficient in pure highway driving, so I also did that test, driving from Seattle to Centralia, Washington, always my excuse to buy a new pair of shoes. Round trip, that's 190 miles at speeds from 50 to 80 miles an hour, and the computer projects I have over 50 miles left. I would have made it even with the 90% software restriction. In cold weather, EV efficiency can drop an easy 30%. Keep that in mind, Minnesotans. Bolt's optional adaptive cruise control is very smooth, follows the car ahead right down to a complete stop, and a touch of the throttle gets things going again. The lane keep assist, though, that's a bit loosey-goosey. It wanders between the stripes a lot more than I would like. The EUV is available with GM's awesome Super Cruise that can't be had in this model. Where Bolt EV shines is in the city. For starters, it's supremely maneuverable. Bolt is really good for urban driving. Let's do the U-turn test. This is a pretty small cul-de-sac, and it aces it. Bolt is not a big car, but it's pretty comfortable, and it's quiet too. There is a little bit of motor whine, but it's not excessive. Really, it's pretty well done. Zipping around town, especially in dense traffic, Bolt definitely bolts. Yeah, I've said it 100 times before. I'm gonna say it again. EVs have their very heavy batteries in the floor, which makes for a low center of gravity. That means when you chuck it into a corner, they're loads of fun. The only thing is, Bolt's steering, it's kind of numb. Wish there was more road feel. I don't find the Kia Niro EV, Nissan Leaf, or rear-drive Volkswagen ID.4 overly engaging either. Haven't driven the Hyundai Kona EV. By far best in class for drivers is the electric Mini Cooper, but it only has 2 doors, a very small back seat, and a limited range of 120 miles. The transition from regenerative braking to the actual physical brakes feels very natural in the Bolt when it comes to pedal feel. And if you want very aggressive one-pedal driving, just push that button. And if you push the steering wheel paddle, it's even more aggressive. Comes to a complete stop, no creep at all. And a lot of people don't know this, but Tesla doesn't make that transition. If you're using the brake pedal, you are actually using the physical brakes. A little closer look at the cabin. Materials get a serious bump in quality. Much of them are soft to the touch. Yeah, the stitching is molded, but if you have to look as hard as I did to figure that out, the cost savings are worth it. This 2LT model comes with a bird's eye camera view system. For a compact car, the designers did a commendable job of eking out as much storage as they did. It's all useful. The flat floor helps. I found the leather seats that come with the 2LT to be comfortable and supportive, plus they and the wheel are heated. Climate is single zone if that's a deal breaker. As for a sunroof, well, you can't get one. If you care about music at all, get the Bose system, which is average at best. Normally, entry chimes are very delicate. This one, very impressive. Maybe it's compensating for something. The user interface is pretty easy to use. General Motors doesn't get its due in that department, it just works. Wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are standard kit. Wireless phone charging is part of a $595 infotainment package that includes the Bose sound. Question for you, are you fully vaccinated? Of course, I'm the evil twin, not the dumb one. Hey. Let's get back on topic. We're both 5'9". I have that much headroom. Not bad. Gotta remember, Bolt's not a really large vehicle, so knee, leg, and foot room are actually kind of on the generous side. Cushions are high enough so that my thighs are pretty well supported. They might be a little bit on the short side. Door openings, a little bit small, but not a deal breaker if you're getting car seats in and out all the time. These door pockets can take water and thermal bottles. Wouldn't want to put a cup of hot coffee in a paper cup here. bad idea. And check out the trim. Actually, there isn't any. See? It's different from the front. And speaking of the accountants cutting corners, hey, where's the seat back pocket, huh? There are no adjustable vents. I can charge my phones. Nice that I have a choice of USB ports. Bolt's floor, nice and flat. So if you have to have 3 people back here, their feet won't get too crowded. Not so sure about a trio. Maybe for trips across town, but for long excursions, I would keep it to 2 back here, and they have a place for their coffee. Let's talk price. GM's EVs no longer qualify for federal tax credits, but states all have their own for you to research. MSRP for Bolt EV starts at $32,000, and that's with shipping. This fully optioned 2LT stickers for around $36,600 with cherry red paint, the infotainment package, and $375 for adaptive cruise. Now, you might think that's close to a Tesla Model 3, but if you want red, the least expensive one with the same range is $42,000. And GM historically sets retail prices high so dealers can discount deeply. My sister-in-law knocked $14,000 off the price of hers. This is one reason why I started my price quote service. All bets are off now, though, because of the microchip supply issues and, of course, the battery recall. This being a mid-cycle refresh, space really isn't any different, and I could have used file footage from a previous Bolt EV review, but I'm doing a deep dive on the cargo area because a lot of people will be using this to run chores and do errands. Right off the bat, 6 bundles of softness and absorbency for a car this size is impressive. Those are about the size of a carry-on suitcase. That's 17 cubic feet. The privacy shade doesn't need to be left in the garage. Neither does the cargo floor. This makes Bolt pretty useful on an everyday basis, even when the back seat is in use. Those are pretty easy to drop since it's not much of a reach. Forgot to show you that the floor can also be used as kind of a divider so groceries don't rattle around. I can see Bolt being pressed into delivery service or used by couples that may never use the back seat, and in max cargo mode at 57 cubic feet, it has no problem swallowing up a lot of stuff. How much? Well, a baker's dozen, or if you're not familiar with that term, 13. A good-sized dog crate could fit back here. Let's finish up with red light, green light. Green light. The mid-cycle refresh takes care of the things people groused about, the interior look, seat comfort, and the fussy-looking front end. The overall goodness of Bolt remains: excellent range, fun to drive, easy to park, practical, and spacious for a small vehicle. The lower price that includes free basic charger installation from GM, that's got to be worth at least $1,000. Yellow lights? Sure, it's fun to drive, but there's not much road feel coming through the steering wheel. Advanced driving tech is available, but Super Cruise can't be had on Bolt EV, only the EUV. The improved charging rate makes road trips easier to do. Just know that others can be faster. I think GM hit the sweet spot when it comes to real-world usage, though. Red light. Some creature comforts like dual zone climate and a sunroof are not available. Sure wish the side profile design got some attention. Go with the EUV for less of a blatant hatchback look. And of course, the battery recall, a huge bummer. Between this and Hyundai's recall for the same issue with LG Chem packs, I'm afraid it will dampen the enthusiasm for EVs. The silver lining for those that already own a Bolt? Those with high mileage cars are getting a new pack. Compact cars are a joy to sling around in the city, torquey EVs amp up the fun, and most vehicles have just one person in them. How much room do you need? Few commutes are more than 50 miles in a day. Considering that, many owners could get by charging on 120 current. But to make that happen, electric vehicles do need easy access to an outlet overnight. If you own your own home, I highly suggest checking out an EV. Not only are they fun to drive, but there's so much less maintenance and no gas station trips. They're really pretty awesome. I understand why people are hesitant to buy electric vehicles. Forking out a lot of money for something unfamiliar is hard to do. The battery recall doesn't help. No vehicle, gas or electric, is perfect. I could go down the rabbit hole, but I won't. Chevy's refreshed Bolt EV is one of the better affordable electric vehicles on the market, all things considered, and GM is doing the responsible thing. Still, going forward, Bolt's reputation is clouded. Stay tuned. Again, I'm a huge EV fan and may never buy another gas-powered car unless I get a screaming deal on a Cayman or 911. Hopefully, the new bill working through Congress will help tackle charging infrastructure. Stations are especially needed in rural areas. Don't think the government should get involved in that or offer tax incentives? Think about the billions, if not trillions of dollars that have gone to the petroleum industry. Remember, I have a price quote service, and whether you use mine or somebody else's, really, I don't care. Buying a car these days is a very weird experience with the chip shortage and all, so it really pays to do the research, find out what real world pricing is, okay? I'm just trying to save you some time and some money. There are verified studies that show EVs are cleaner in the long run than gas-powered cars, even when the generating plants are coal-fired, and those are being increasingly phased out. Lots of organizations all over the world insist climate change is happening, including our own NOAA and NASA. These are smart people with no agenda. We need to pay attention to the science, and soon. Like vaccines, I'll be nicer than Evil Twin. Please, for the sake of yourself and everyone else, get the shot. The Driven community is an awesome group. I'd hate to lose even one of you, even the obnoxious ones. Hope you got something out of my look at the 2022 Chevrolet Bolt EV, the refresh. This is the end time for the fun fact, which has nothing to do with the car and everything to do with the TP trunk test. You folks are fascinated by that. And one question I always get is why I just don't buy a stash. Well, here's why. One, I need to go shopping. Second of all, it's expensive. If I were to buy 20 packs, that's like $400. Third, if you watch closely here, see, the package rips. It's not that durable. After about 3 or 4 loadouts, that plastic rips and everything falls apart. So fresh TP is always the way to go. And that's why I always go to Costco every week. Well, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe every Tuesday, a great car review video like this. That's Driven. I'm Tom Voelk.